millions of young people are hurting right now in America. They are up to their eyeballs in debt, and they can't find good-paying jobs. For example, we've seen in our home state, according to the Oregon Employment Department, that the overall unemployment rate last year was 9.4%, but was 19% for workers aged 16 to 24. And I would also note that we have seen, again, most recently, that the labor participation for young people has declined as well. So we have an enormous array of challenges in front of us. And the reason that this legislation, the Stop Student Loan Interest Rate Hike, is so important is that it allows us to achieve two important objectives. First, it puts us in a position to hold the line on student debt. The second part of this legislation, in my view, is by holding the line on debt, you increase the opportunity for young people to get more value out of their education. And the reason I bring this up, Mr. President, is my sense is that future policy in the higher education field is going to be about marrying these two objectives. Let's support this important legislation, S 2343, to expand access, and use it as a foundation to move on to the next step of education policy, which is to get more value out of the education that a young person pursues. I've also introduced a piece of legislation with our colleague from the other side of the aisle, Marco Rubio, called the Student Right to Know Before You Go Act, so that it is possible for students all across the country to get information about the expected average annual earnings after graduation, the rates of remedial enrollment for a particular field at a particular college, the average cost both before and after financial aid, and the prospects of a student earning a good wage after achieving a particular degree at a particular school. And with this legislation, Mr. President, we lay the foundation for what I think will be the education policy of the future, ensuring that students have access and ensuring that they get more value out of the education and, in many instances, these loans and other programs that they have to pay back. And the two go hand in hand. And if we don't take steps to hold the line on debt, first of all, and that is to pass Senator Harkin's bill. So we don't say to college, sophomores and juniors, we don't care if you rack up any more debt when we know how much heartache it's going to bring to them. And then move on to the next step, which is empowering students and families to be able to get the maximum amount of value out of their education. I think we will have let the country down in this area at a crucial time. We understand that higher education is one of the principal, if not the best, for many students, paths to success. Not for every student, but certainly for millions. And it has been, and why I describe particularly what young people have contributed in technology, a real spark for our economy. So I see other colleagues waiting to speak, and I only urge colleagues to pass this legislation, 2343, to ensure that we don't heap more debt onto the backs of students in college now who might be looking at re-upping on those loans and wondering if they can afford it. And then as we expand access, let's look at taking additional steps to ensuring that our young people get more value for their college education. Senator Rubio and I have teamed up on a bill that I think addresses that question, the student right to know before you go act. And to me, going to that next step of adding more value to a young person's education when they're armed with the facts requires that you lay the foundation of access to a good education, which I think requires, at this time when so many young people are hurting, and I went through the statistics, it requires that we pass S 2343. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.